Hello, my name is Allison Carmen, and welcome to my podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. And the name of today's podcast is The Holiday Season. How you hold hope is unique to you. And the reason I bring this up today is I wrote an article for Maria Shriver's Sunday paper a couple of weeks ago, and it had a lot to do with hope and how people hold hope and how they could face the uncertainty of life. And out of all the pieces I've written in the past, it seemed to be the one that upset people the most, as if me talking about hope was diminishing people's concerns about the future. And what was so interesting about the experience is I started to recognize how differently people hold hope. It is very unique. It is very personal. Some people equate hope with something that's actually going to happen. And some people equate hope to mitigating a circumstance, or some people equate hope with a possibility. But whatever it is, hope seems to be some kind of motivator, because without it, when people become hopeless or people end up in a period of despair, both those things could lead to inaction. And I think that's the primary purpose of this podcast, is however you hold hopes for the moment, hopes for tomorrow, hopes for your dreams, hopes for your children. If the future scares you enough, if you are too worried, if you are too stressed, if you fear the unknown too much, despair will kick in, because despair is really our need for certainty. It's us saying we know what tomorrow looks like based on today. And I know I talk about this all the time, but nobody knows the future. And because life is uncertain, our feelings of doom and gloom cannot be certain either. So nobody could prove to you that the future is filled with things you don't like. Nobody knows. Can events today cause higher probabilities of what might be? Of course. But probabilities are not certainties. And we also have to remember, when things happen that we don't like, life still has possibilities the next day. That even though something horrible or devastating or something that we almost can't bear happens, it doesn't mean we cannot survive the pain. That's what happens sometimes. We look into the future and we see something we don't like and we think game over. And we forget that the sun rises the next day again. We might not like it, we might not prefer it, but it doesn't mean that there's not a continuation. What's so interesting is that life has no conclusions. We are the ones that make the conclusions. We are the ones that stop time. This happened. This person won the election. This happened with my job. This happened with my child, as if that moment is a conclusion. But life has a continuation in the next breath, in the next moment. So while we are so busy judging one thing, we forget life has already moved on. New possibilities are already being created. Will we like them all? Probably not. But it doesn't mean that each moment cannot bring us something new. And it's very important during uncertain times, during chaotic times, that we remember this. Because again, once hopelessness or despair kick in and we stop trying and we stop moving forward, life kind of gets away from us. It almost moves beyond us, beyond our reach. Can we catch up? Of course. But why not go with the flow and the river and keep up with everything that life is giving us? So why I bring this up for the holiday season is that as we approach this time where families are getting together and there's so much talk about gratitude and joy, how will we show up if we're feeling unhappy, if we're feeling disappointed, if we're feeling angry? And that's going to depend on our perspective, how we choose to hold hope, how we choose to see it. And it's okay to see it differently. So I wanted to read to you today a couple of quotes about hope so you can think about what hope means to you. It doesn't matter how your neighbor holds hope. It only matters how you sustain yourself during times that you feel uncertain, stressed, and worried. Uncertainty is the refuge of hope. Henry Frederick Emile. That is one of my favorite quotes because it reminds us because we can't know, good things could happen too. Uncertainty is just not bad. Think about all the things that have ever happened in your life that you did not expect that are good. Those things still exist for you, and nobody can tell you otherwise. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Martin Luther King Jr. When you think about everything that he was facing, that he was trying to change, he called disappointment finite, and he called hope infinite. And the reason why he called it infinite, he knew the future was unknown. Hope is a state of mind, not of the world. Hope in this deep and powerful sense is not the same as joy that things are going well, or willingness to invest in enterprises that are obviously heading for success, but rather an ability to work for something because it is good. Vaclav Havel. There's something out of all the hope quotes that this one actually is the most freeing, because you act because it's the right thing to do for you. You act because it's authentic. You hope because it's in you to do this thing. How powerful is that? How freeing is that? That you get up in the morning and you do what you do because it's just who you are. And then the outcome will be the outcome. Then you are truly in the infinite field of possibilities, and all things are possible. Desmond Tutu said, "Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all the darkness." And you don't even have to define it. Your hope could be this little glimmer in the distance, not knowing what it is, not knowing what it will be, but just to know that there's something more than the circumstances that you see in front of you. Again, we're talking about that light within the infinite, the light within the unknown. And isn't it amazing that you could hope without knowing what will be? And that's, again, where people fall off. They need to know it needs to be a certain way for them to rest, for them to be okay. And that's why so many people are feeling doomed today. It's not that challenging things aren't happening, it's that they're so sure that the darkness will prevail. And these are quotes by people who have seen very difficult times. Here's another hope quote by Robert Schuller. "Let your hopes, not your hurts, shape your future." And that's another thing to think about. Have you given up hope because of your past? Because things haven't worked out before. But if we live our lives from that wound, it will shape the view. But if you allow hope in without facts or definitions, or just this knowing that because you don't know life could be different, then you will not be ruled by your pain or your wound. You will be ruled by your wisdom, your heart, and everything that's possible for your life. Never deprive someone of hope. It might be all they have. Jackson Brown Jr. And that's another thing too. We have to allow people to get up every morning the way they need to. And so we need not judge another. Some of the craziest ideas I've ever heard in my life in business were based on a hope. And those hopes came true. Hope is a funny thing. I guess you could say hope can drive you to the moon, and despair could lead to inaction. So as you approach this holiday season, and you see your friends and family, and everybody's going to have a different take and a different perspective on the future of this country, the future of this world, the future of their lives, sit back a little and know that everybody's trying to manage their relationship with uncertainty. And that's really what's happening. They're trying to manage their fear, their love, their dreams, and their hope. And so we need not judge another, but most of all, it's best to go back to ourselves and see how we want to show up for every holiday, every moment, the new year. How do we want to hold our perspective? How do we want to hold our life? Do we want to believe in the possibilities of goodness? Do we want to keep our heart open? Do we want to believe our dreams are still true? Do we want to dig even deeper? Our hope can make us fearless. Our relationship with uncertainty can create the most amazing miracles as long as we show up for ourselves and our lives and the people around us and the world, and we're authentic to what we truly believe, because for all we know, maybe the best is yet to come. Thank you for listening to this podcast today. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can email me at allison@allisoncarmen.com. If you'd like to read my books, The Gift of Maybe, A Year Without Men, Maybe Everything's Okay, A Parent's Guide to Less Stress and Worry, they're available at all major bookstores and online retailers. And if you'd like to buy my Maybe cards or my online digital Maybe journal, they're available on Amazon, Etsy, and my Stand store. And most of all, I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. And if you like this podcast, I hope you subscribe and leave a comment.